For them to then connect with international markets, that will help grow the economy.
The question,
Mr. Chair.
I call the honourable member Todd McLeay.
Mr. Chair, thank you. I'm happy to take a call at this part of the debate on NZTE because, as with Mrs. Street, I believe it's a very important organisation with very hard-working people doing a very important job on behalf of New Zealand. But that's where my agreement with her finishes, and I found her intervention to be far too pessimistic, not only about the challenges we face and how we're moving through them, but actually about the feeling amongst those that work for NZTE. Those I've met have a great amount of pride for the job that they're doing, a very good job on behalf of this country. But also she was far too pessimistic in her view of what the clients of NZTE think of their work. And we see that 84% of those who have had assistance from NZTE say that they have had value added to their businesses. 84% say they've had value added to their businesses. Now, Mrs. Street said that, they weren't universally satisfied. Well, I'm yet to meet anybody that's universally satisfied, Mr. Speaker, with the exception of reading in a newspaper some years ago where the people of Iraq were asked to vote in an election and they were universally satisfied with the then President Saddam Hussein because he got 107% of the vote. But with the exception of that, it's not unusual in New Zealand for New Zealanders to have differences of opinion, but 84% of businesses helped said there was value added to their companies by NZTE. Well, I say to Mrs. Street, good on NZTE and the hard-working people there that are doing a very important job. So why is it, Mr. Speaker, that I think this is Mr. Chairman, a very important group of New Zealanders who are doing a fantastic job for us overseas? Well, the work that they do fits very closely with the government's economic agenda and our economic plan that's been rolled out over the last 2 years to back New Zealanders, to invest in the local economy so that our economy can grow, so more people can be employed, so that we have a better standard of living and can afford better and more services for New Zealanders, and we get to do that by exporting more to other parts of the world. Since we've come to government, we've had a number of trade agreements that have either been negotiated, the negotiations concluded or entered into force, that NZTE must then do something about. Now, I won't go through all of them, Mr. Speaker, because I've only got 5 minutes and it's an extremely long list of achievements by this government. But to pick just a few, or in fact one that I think holds great opportunity for us, it was the entering into force of the free trade agreement with China. Why would it be that China is important to us, Mr. Speaker? Well, that's very straightforward. In the 2 years since we've been in government and this agreement has entered into force, our trade with China has grown from $8.5 billion to $11.1 billion, Mr. Speaker. You know what that means, Mr. Chairman? What that means is that there are very many more New Zealand businesses who are producing goods and exporting them to China. Their trade has grown, but more important than that, what it means is that there are many companies who weren't exporting before and who have been helped by NZTE. What I would say, Mr. Chairman, is the challenge that we set for NZTE, and this government backs them fully, is to help New Zealand businesses to get into some of these new markets, to take advantage of the great opportunity there so that we can sell more of our produce, we can bring them those funds back to New Zealand, and that we're able to employ more New Zealanders. And there's some wonderful work has been done there in that, Mr. Chairman. Finally, what I would say is their job overseas is to leverage the very good work that this government is doing and our Minister of Trade negotiation when it comes to FTAs. Last year I had a chance to visit Shanghai for the World Expo and went to the NZTE office. There were millions and millions of people, particularly from China but around the world, that visited the New Zealand pavilion there at the Expo. But more important than that, for tourism purposes, there were thousands of businesses that visited NZTE and they leveraged that opportunity that the government had provided for New Zealand businesses to meet them, to talk about New Zealand, some of our advantages, and to do more business, to do more trade. So, Mr. Speaker, that was a very important work. One of the great things they will be doing this year, and the government is backing them fully in this, is to be leveraging the 85,000 visitors that will come to New Zealand for the Rugby World Cup. In my electorate of Rotorua, I've had a number of meetings with them, with businesses they've been working with and they've been supporting. And can I tell you, Mr Speaker, that actually the feeling there is greater than 84% in as far as the support we've been given. I thank the staff of NZTE and ask them to keep doing that great job on our behalf. Thank you.
The question is that the report of the Commerce Committee on the 2009-2010 financial review of New Zealand Trade and Enterprise be noted. Those of that opinion will please say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. The ayes have it. The next entity